He went out to fish and he never came home. Tonight on Protect and Serve, we are going to be talking about the fisherman who was allegedly murdered by the United States government. But first, Michael, how are you? How's your week been?
Pretty good, actually. Just got back from Boston. Spent 4 days up there, hanging out with some friends. Participated in a very successful toy drive for underprivileged kids in the greater Boston area. That was fantastic. Yeah. How about you?
I'm good, but actually, right before we were chatting, we were talking about odd behavior, public behavior, and it made me think. Well, you were at a Panera, and
yes,
and my pet peeve when I'm in public is people who are doing things in public that are either they shouldn't be doing in that particular place, like having a conference call or doing something like that in a Panera. And then it made me think of the airports and the new directive that I guess we're supposed to do pull-ups, work out at the airport.
I missed that part of the directive. All I caught was like the you're not supposed to wear pajamas.
You don't know about the update?
I mean, I've seen like these videos come out about RFK Jr. working out at the airport and doing pull-ups, but I just thought it was like run-of-the-mill behavior for him because he's like an actual lunatic.
Oh, no. The new thing, I think Secretary of Transportation Duffy is like, hey, in addition to no longer wearing comfortable clothes at the airport, we're also going to be investing in putting in spaces like pull-up bars and gyms. So they're basically turning airports into like brotopia. And I love the gym. I'm a gym rat. But you know what I don't want is to do pull-ups at the airport or to see grown men trying to have a pissing match in the airport, which is inevitably what it will turn into.
Yeah, I like the old what I like about the airport is that time doesn't exist when you're there, and that it's always, at least in my mind, socially acceptable to drink, whether it's 6 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the evening. So I don't understand why that's not just sufficient, why we have to introduce all of like doing calisthenics and push-ups and also like we're supposed to be better dressed, like suit and tie, and then also working out. I'm not for any of this. I think
I was going to say,
where is Doge when we
exactly
need the most? We're putting gym equipment in the goddamn airport. We got airplanes falling out of the skies, but we're going to build a gym in the come on.
No, it makes no sense. And people already just throw their clothes over their gym equipment at home. So I find it highly unlikely that this would be a good use of taxpayer money to put an elliptical trainer or whatever else. And mind you, again, I'm all about being healthy. I just think that they should have other priorities. So that's.
I guess while I'm sitting at the bar drinking, it'll give me something to amuse myself with, watching people do pull-ups and push-ups and other ridiculous activities.
We need something to amuse us because we do have to get into our story tonight, which is not at all amusing. As many of you have, all of you, everyone has been following what's been going on in the Caribbean and the Trump administration's complete and total what appears to be lawlessness in the region. But we want to talk about a particular story tonight because, as we'd mentioned before, maybe you're new to this, but we are covering the Trump administration's crimes like a crime podcast because it seems to be the best way to get through all of the information, because what they do try to do is confuse people, obscure the facts. The stories tend to take place over the course of months, so a lot gets lost in the detail. So our goal here is to dive into some of these stories in a in-depth way so that it doesn't get lost, because these aren't victimless crimes here. These people deserve justice. So let's talk about this. September 15th, 2025, The U.S. military fired a missile at a boat in the Caribbean Sea, and Trump announced on social media that the strike killed 3 confirmed narco-terrorists from Venezuela who were transporting illegal narcotics headed to the U.S. He claimed there was proof, big bags of cocaine and fentanyl scattered in the water. But in Santa Marta, Colombia, a family says one of those 3 people was their father, a 42-year-old fisherman named Alejandro Carranza, who had gone out to catch tuna, and his body has never been recovered. And now his family is suing the United States government for murder.
I mean, this is, absolutely tragic. Unfortunately, at least in my mind, it was, inevitable. When this administration took the policy standpoint that they were going to start delivering military strikes on suspected narco traffickers, you knew just based off of, the past experiences that a large percentage of the time the United States gets it wrong. And so having this type of an outcome is exactly why I don't believe in using deadly force in these types of scenarios. That's why we use interdiction. That's why we arrest these individuals and prosecute them, because if you believe the math, at least 25% of the time, I've even witnessed higher percentages in my career working, drug trafficking cases, when the intelligence is completely wrong.
But so they say they have proof. Well, exactly. So
you know what, Maya? Show us the proof, but that still doesn't justify murdering people who are trafficking in illegal drugs. There's a reason why we have laws in this country. There's a reason why, we prosecute individuals, because if you go by that mindset, that, justification, then what's next? Do we start killing American citizens who are trafficking in illegal drugs? And why is it that we're specifically only targeting, Venezuelan traffickers? What about the whole, range of other entities that are bringing illegal narcotics and other dangerous commodities into this country? Why is it that we're only hyper-focused on these? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, and I think we'll get into that later in the show. And you bring up a very, very good point, is what if there's absolutely this proof that they're not showing us as justification, we're also accepting the premise that it's okay to just kill someone extrajudicially. And so a lot of what the Trump administration does is base so many of their actions in lies. That has been their MO from the get-go. And so they want us to accept the premise that we are at war with Venezuela, that we are at war with narco-terrorists. And last I checked, Congress needs to declare war, and Congress can't really do much of anything these days, let alone declare war. So, and Trump himself said, we have proof. All you have to do is look at the cargo that was like spattered all over the ocean. Big bags of cocaine and fentanyl all over the place. How can you tell it's cocaine and fentanyl from the videos that they have?
I mean, listen, I'm quite certain that they could recover debris if they had personnel that was on the ground. But the point is that this administration is constantly telling us that they have proof, but then they never show us any proof. And if you go back to, in my mind, kind of the origins of all of the illegal actions that this administration took, and Kilmar Obrego Garcia, who was just recently ordered by a United States court to be released from ICE detention yet again. And this is an administration that said that he was a human trafficker, a narco trafficker, that he was a member of a violent street gang, but then proved none of those things in a court of law time and time and time again. And that is just one of the countless examples of the administration lying to the American people and then not being able to back it up in court. And then completely ignoring court orders altogether. And then when they're ruled, in a way that that they don't like, they call them
Activist judges.
activist judges. That's right.
Well, and these people have lives, had lives, they have family members. And so we have to remember the human aspect of this, these victims. His widow, Catherine Hernandez's widow, is the widow of Alejandro. And, she asked, why did they just take his life like that? The fishermen have the right to live. Why didn't they just detain him? And I think this is the question that we have to answer, is what exactly is the U.S. military up to that they wouldn't just detain this man, or in other cases where they've repatriated them to their home countries when there's been survivors. So let's talk about Alejandro so we can understand the humanity that the government is trying to deny him. So his full name is Alejandro Andres Carranza Medina. He's 42. He's from Santa Marta, Colombia. His nickname was Coroncoro, which is a small local fish. So he's so much of a fisherman that he has actually a fish as a nickname. He was usually fishing for tuna, snapper, earning the minimum wage. He was known for being easygoing. He liked beer, pool. His wife, Catherine Hernandez, 37, mother of 3 of his children. They met when she was only 13, and they have 4 children total. So, and his parents are still living. So that there are 2 parents who had to not even have the opportunity to bury their child. So, Mike, when there is a family of people saying, "Hey, this man was not a narco-terrorist," this seems like character evidence is of what this would be. People who know him or say he's an easygoing guy. So what happens when somebody who does not fit the profile is just eliminated like this?
I mean, it's we're in a terrifying place in this country where the government is making these life or death decisions without any justification, without evidence or proof to the American people. They are acting in a manner that is unaccountable to the American people, which, listen, if you're in an authoritarian regime, I guess that's fine. But this is a democracy. And we're supposed to have entities like Congress that place checks and balances on this type of conduct and this behavior. And again, like I said, it's a slippery slope here. We're talking about foreign entities now, but who's to say that that the same justification that this government is using, if any at all, couldn't be used against American citizens in the future. And we've already seen examples of Americans being adversely impacted by this administration's policies in the ICE detentions. Americans getting caught up in that enforcement and being unlawfully and illegally detained for long periods of time.
And we're seeing the administration outright deny that, even though we have people testifying to the fact that they were in ICE detention for 1, 2, and 3 days, or that they deported U.S. People who were veterans. And they're claiming, "Oh, no, we didn't deport any veterans." And then a veteran hops on the line and is like, "Hey, actually, you deported me and I'm a veteran." So there is a little bit of a complication in this particular story as far as the facts. The facts are a little wonky on this. Now, while his widow says if he was some kind of narco-terrorist, then why are we living in misery instead of a mansion? He doesn't necessarily have a criminal record, but Colombian media reported that he had a 2012 case involving stolen weapons in collusions with gangs, but his family says he was never jailed for it. Colombian prosecutors contacted, refused to confirm or deny it. And later, President Petro, he conceded he may have been involved very intermittently, but with carrying prohibited goods due to poverty. right? This is a crime of poverty if it were a crime. But he added, never did his actions deserve the death penalty. And that just goes to what you were saying before, which is if somebody is potentially guilty of a crime, you arrest them, you prosecute. You don't just go straight to execution. And it seems like maximum lethality, Pete Hegseth is just wanting to go straight to execution with no evidence.
Yeah, I mean, my argument, first of all, I don't think any of the arguments the administration is making hold water. And in fact, they contradict themselves quite frequently on this particular issue. We have individuals that are trafficking illegal contraband, drugs, human trafficking, et cetera, into this country hundreds of times a day. Just recently, we were talking offline before we got started about a boat that was bringing in a large quantity, tons of cocaine into the United States off the coast of Florida, I believe, that was interdicted, that those individuals were apprehended and arrested, not blown up. And that posed a, if you're going by the justification that Pete Hegseth is giving, which is, that these drugs come into our streets and kill hundreds of thousands of Americans every day, year, whatever the case may be, that was a direct threat. We're talking about Venezuela, which is thousands of miles away from the United States, and which, if you have any knowledge about drug trafficking and the lanes and methodology behind it, nobody brings drugs directly from Venezuela into the United States. There are intermediaries, and oftentimes those drugs aren't even bound for the United States. They're bound for Europe and other locations. And so that argument doesn't hold water, that this was some type of imminent threat to the American people that needed to, or that justified lethal force. And then, the obvious, which is it's on a small boat. It would take days, a week to get to the United States. We had ample amount of time and ample resources to interdict that shipment, arrest the individuals on board, and seize the illegal drugs. But instead, like you said, Pete Hegseth decided we're just going to use military strike and SEAL Team 6 to go in and murder these individuals, which is in violation of international law. It's also in violation of U.S. law. But the administration is, choosing to ignore those things and saying that we are at war, when in reality we are not at war.
Right. And even if we were at war, it would still be a war crime. And, we were talking before the show, this is an administration that already feels like it's above American law and is clearly at this point thinks it's above international law as well. And so accountability is key and crucial to this family. And so just to go over this timeline really quickly, because we're now in mid-December and this story is still in news because they are suing. But let's just back up and go to September 14th. Carranza calls his daughter, tells her he's going fishing, that'll be back in a few days, and leaves just like any other time that he would go off fishing. September 15th, his boat is in the Caribbean, possibly still in Colombian territorial waters that is disputed. And according to President Petro, the boat was adrift and displaying the distress signal due to having an outboard motor failure. And at that point, sometime during the morning, a U.S. military strike destroys the boat and 3 people are killed. Days after, Carranza doesn't call home. His family grows worried. Then they see news reports about a U.S. strike. They recognize the boat. And Leonardo Vega, the Fishermen's Association leader, notices the boat has 2 motors, not the 3 or 4 typical of drug smuggling vessels. And so all of the family information that they have access to is that his body was never recovered. There was no official notification. And they learned that their father was dead on the news. And so if they had all the evidence of who was on this boat and what was on this boat, how could that be possible? That's how they would get notification, via the news.
Yeah, I think that we're answering our own questions here in that I don't believe that that evidence exists. And I believe that, in this case and quite possibly in some of the others, the administration made a mistake. And these individuals had to pay with their lives, which is really my argument, against using this type of these types of strikes, or honestly, the death penalty altogether. It's not because I don't believe that there's individuals that don't deserve to breathe anymore. It's because I believe that if there's even the slightest chance that we get it wrong, that we should, we shouldn't be terminating somebody's life.
Well, absolutely not. And, a lot of times the Trump administration likes to say, well, oh, they're defending criminals and oh, they're defending. And again, this goes to the tactic that fascists like to use, which is go after the most vulnerable people, thinking that we won't speak up, thinking that people will just accept their narrative and accept the story that, oh, this man was a narco terrorist on his boat and we are saving and protecting American lives. And they think people won't dig into the facts, which is why it's so important that we do dig into the facts and that we do provide context for what is happening, because this is a crime with a victim and there is a perpetrator. And that is what brings us to tonight's question is who is responsible? Who is responsible for this death? And to me, the repeated mistakes by the Trump administration and their inability to ever be held accountable for those mistakes is why we're losing so much ground in our international reputation is blown, for lack of a better word.
Oh, absolutely. And my argument would be that everybody, from the person that actually pulled the trigger all the way up to the commander in chief, which is, the president of the United States, are responsible for these actions. Unfortunately, there's no mechanism at this moment within the United States government to hold those individuals accountable. And so it would have to come from outside of the United States.
Right, which at this point, as we're trying to isolate ourselves, according to the national security memo that came out on Friday, it doesn't look like we're interested in answering to anybody but ourselves. But now that we've got Hegseth here, let's talk about him, because he seems to be, what is this perp number? How do we call him perp number one? Potential perp number one. This is a guy... Yeah, I mean, he wants to brag about, he changed the name to the War Department. And now that things are getting messy, he's trying to wash his hands of all of this, which...
Well, he changed the name. He changed the signs, I should say. He didn't actually change the name. It actually takes an act of Congress to change the name of the, Secretary of Defense and the Defense Department. So it's still the Defense Department. Pete Hegseth just changed all the signs to the tune of who the hell knows how much money. Again, where's Doge? But he clearly is enjoys this posture of shoot first, ask questions later. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and expecting people to not push back. And I think they were, because now there is a lawyer who is helping the family file suit. And so this is the first lawsuit that has come out of these boat strikes. And so for every illegal action that the Trump administration takes, which is many, there are going to be families who are going to ask for compensation, who are going to ask for culpability. And so this family, I think, I'm hoping, is going to be the beginning of a trend of people, whether they be people who are in the U.S. or people who are outside of the U.S. who are demanding accountability from this administration. And I think that might be how the Trump regime goes down.
I don't know. I think they just ignore, they've shown a willingness to ignore courts within the United States. I think that they will most certainly ignore international courts. I think they look at it as though we have the largest military in the world. Nobody's going to tell us what to do. We're going to do whatever we want to do. I think, unfortunately, it's going to take courage from within. It's going to take members of Congress, ultimately impeaching these individuals, holding them accountable. It's going to take a Department of Justice that's willing to pursue justice and the rule of law, and hold these individuals criminally accountable for their crimes. But we're not there. We have, both of those entities are completely beholden to this administration and are in lockstep with their illegal policies and actions.
I was going to say, not only are we not there, we're charging forward. We're charging ahead with the lawlessness.
And you bring these lawsuits, but it's like, how many more people need to lose their lives? I mean, that's forever. This administration took away this man's future. They took away everything that he could have ever been, and treat it in the most callous manner. And then anyone that poses a question, like you said earlier, the argument is, well, you don't care about American safety. You don't care about, well, we don't even know if this guy posed a threat to American safety because you haven't proven that to us. Exactly.
And there are 80 plus people out there, 80 plus victims with families, perhaps with similar stories. And so this points to a large campaign. None of this is happening in a vacuum. This is an unprecedented U.S. military campaign in the Caribbean that started in around August 2025, when the Trump administration deployed a massive military presence in the Caribbean. And we're talking like thousands of sailors. Now, remember, this is a president who is supposed to be the I'm going to stop all wars, I'm going to end all wars, anti-war. He got into office on the premise that he was going to be the peace president, right? And so instead, 8 warships, submarines, fighter jets. It's the largest U.S. military presence in Latin America in decades. The Gerald Ford aircraft carrier arrived in November. And so it looked like, in a lot of the chatter on social media, was, are we about to go to war with Venezuela? And if so, why? And so people are paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, Trump himself has alluded to, putting boots on the ground, to moving the conflict from the open seas to a land campaign into Venezuela and beyond. And so, again, not the words of the man that just are not, not in line with someone who just won the FIFA Peace Prize.
The FIFA Peace Prize. I was actually in an airport and I heard somebody joking and laughing, and I knew immediately who they were talking about. They hadn't named him, but they were like, that ridiculous prize that is obviously made up. And, it's almost like FIFA's just trying to appease him. They're like, hey.
Oh, that's exactly what they're doing. And they know exactly how to do it. Everybody knows how to do it. You just buy him some silly gift and tell him that, he's great and he's the greatest. And it's so pathetic on both parts. It's pathetic that they would do that, but it's pathetic that actually gains them favor with Trump. He's literally a fucking child.
I was gonna say, I was like, I do know my family gave me an award for best quiche, and that felt really good. but I'm not the president of the United States, So it's like,
Where's
give
all
me a
the
made up award.
where's all the MAGA criticism about participation trophies? Like, this guy has received more participation trophies than anyone in the history of than an 8-year-old soccer team.
Do you
It's
think
insane.
he has? I was gonna say, do you think he has them like on a shelf in his room? Like he's surrounded by all of his little trophies and medals.
I have no doubt in my mind that he displays each and every medal, award, certificate that he's ever gotten, going all the way back until his, preschool days. There's no doubt in my mind.
I was gonna say I eventually threw out all my trophies. But this is okay. So this is a man. Not to digress, but got the FIFA Peace Prize, but and is the man of peace. But he formally notified Congress on October 1st that the U.S. was in a non-international armed conflict with drug cartels. Pray tell, what does that even mean? Is that a technical term? You were a undercover narcotics officer. What is a non-international armed conflict with drug cartels even mean? And they named Trendagua as one of the foreign terrorist organizations. And under this framework, they can kill members without arrest or trial. And Trump told reporters, we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Like that. That's what they said. So what does that mean?
It means exactly what it sounds like it means. Bullshit. Okay. It's complete and total bullshit.
But what's not bullshit? The body count.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. But again, this administration is going to do what it wants to do when it wants to do it until somebody stops them from doing it. And right now, it doesn't seem like, unfortunately, for these poor Venezuelans and anyone else, quite frankly, outside of the United States or inside of the United States, for that matter, this administration is going to do what it wants to do, and there's nobody that's willing to step up and stop them. There have been, courts that have intervened and temporarily paused their behaviors, but ultimately we've got a Supreme Court that seems willing to allow the administration to do anything that it wants to do.
Okay. Yeah. And so at this point now, there are two known survivors, a Colombian and an Ecuadorian. So neither of them are Venezuelan, which is that, remember, it was Trendagua. That's the designated terrorist organization. And yet the two people who remain alive aren't even from Venezuela. So that already pokes holes in their story. And the administration itself hasn't publicly identified any of the dead, and no evidence has been publicly presented that any vessel was actually carrying drugs.
I'll tell you, going back into my past time as a law enforcement officer, what I draw from that convinces me that this administration is lying, whether it's about, ICE raids and domestically here in the United States or about these international strikes when it comes to drug traffickers, is there's one thing that law enforcement loves. And this administration loves it as much, if not more. And that's the spectacle of it all, and putting on a big press conference in which they display all of the, seized evidence, blah, blah, blah. You know how many times we've seen that happen in this administration? Fucking zero. And so, you think Kristi Noem, if they had, when they supposedly raided Trendagua, I think it was in Colorado, that had taken over some apartment complex, and then the other one in Chicago, that they had, if they had any drugs, guns, anything illegal, that
convictions, anything.
Right, exactly. All of those things would have been laid out on a big folding table, and she would have been there with Kash Patel and 50 other morons, and they would have all been taking pictures and answering questions about the hard work that law enforcement did. Instead, we never see any of that shit. If you go back to previous administrations, my entire 20 years as a police officer, the amount of times I had to set up and sit and watch these stupid press conferences take place so that, my superiors and supervisors could take credit for the work that me or somebody else had done, it's countless. And none of that happens because they don't have any evidence, because it's all crap. everything they're doing is predicated on a lie. And here we are.
Well, there actually is some evidence, and I would say that would be Alvin Halsey, the Admiral, deciding to resign. Because to me, when somebody decides to walk away from a position that's that important, a position that he'd worked towards his entire career, appointed by the Biden administration, I checked that, decided to walk away, resign, rather than continue to participate. And his last day is tomorrow, actually, effective tomorrow, the 12th. Somebody of that level, of that caliber, deciding that they don't want to participate in this, to me, is evidence of something.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes. I mean, these are incredibly serious people that take their jobs and their responsibilities and their commitments to the United States and to the international community incredibly seriously. And so, the fact that this person, Admiral Halsey, who had dedicated his life in service of this country, would walk away from that position and from that commitment, I think in and of itself speaks volumes. Unfortunately, right. At this particular moment, it's the average American is just not picking up on that the way that they should be.
Well, as say, because again, as you pointed out, he spent his life, his career defending America. So if we are all under threat of invasion by drug lords and mountains of cocaine, this man wouldn't walk away from his post. This is a man who spent his career defending us. And so it would make no sense whatsoever for what Pete Hegseth is saying to be true. And remember, Pete Hegseth was a former Fox News host. He was a Fox and Friends host. He had no prior military command experience. And now he's overseeing the largest military apparatus in human history. Like, it's insane to have to answer to that man when you are a principled and skilled military veteran, professional. Like, it's insane to me that they have to even.
Yeah, no, I again, like I said, going back to the idea that these are serious people that take their jobs incredibly seriously. I think Admiral Halsey recognizes that, the ends do not justify the means. And that, in order for the United States to maintain its place amongst the international community, it has to abide by international law. And it has to act in a way that is not only legal, but also from a place of, high morality. That is something that at least, we all thought that that the American military, was guided by that idea of true moral compass. And I think you're starting to see now these military leaders who have that moral compass recognize the fact that it's incompatible with this administration and that they, are unable to serve. I just wish that more of them would come out and address these things publicly. I understand that there are severe consequences for that, that these individuals can be, recalled to active duty and even could be court-martialed for treason, for criticizing the president of the United States, the commander in chief. But I think that, people's lives are being lost for nothing. And, if ever there was a moment to call into question this, the president of the United States and his actions, I think this is that moment.
Well, yeah, and they don't want to release videos of some of these strikes, and that to me, because they know that's the smoking gun, that the videos that some of the senators have seen have been shocking. And as far as international standing, as you see here, the Colombia's president criticizes Trump over the boat attacks. And so this is something where other world leaders are speaking up. He said on X, U.S. government officials have committed a murder and violated our sovereignty in territorial waters. Fisherman Alejandro Carranza had no ties to the drug trade, and his daily activity was fishing. And so the fact of the matter is, when you have in Petro, he's been sparring with Trump basically Trump's entire administration. I believe he had his visa revoked after his speech at the UN General Assembly. And so he's definitely on Trump's shit list, but he's also, I think, one of the first leftist leaders in a long time in Colombia. And so Trump, as he's trying to take over South America, apparently country by country, definitely sees this man as a threat. And so it's so important that he continues to call him out. So the lawsuit, because that's where we stand now, Dan Kovalik, an American lawyer, took the case. And so this is a human rights attorney from Pittsburgh, Columbia Law School graduate. He was counsel for United Steelworkers Union. He's gone up against Coca-Cola, against Drummond, human rights abuses in Colombia. He's actually named by Christian Science Monitor as one of the most prominent defenders of Colombian workers in the United States. And he also now represents President Petro after U.S. sanctions. And Trump has already been saying, I'm going to go after you next if you're not quiet. And so already amping up the rhetoric. And so this complaint, which was filed December 2nd, it was filed with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights in Washington, D.C. And I have to say, before this administration, I had no idea how many different international bodies exist to hold us accountable. It's just right now we've been doing so many illegal things that it's like, oh, there's this body and there's that body. There's so many places that are holding people accountable, and now it's our turn. So this administration is already losing steam, losing elections. Seats are being flipped. So I know we talked about like whether or not there'll be accountability. Let's just say midterms go poorly for Trump, for Republicans, which I believe is going to happen. Do you feel like, because I'm starting to feel like they actually are vulnerable. What are they going to do? Never leave the United States? Like maybe they step foot in another country and they get arrested and detained.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's all speculation, but it would seem to me that Trump is, and his administration are nurturing some relationships that might be seen as abnormal. I think in previous administrations, whether it's the Saudis or Qatar, Argentina, but I think that he's planning a potential escape plan. I don't foresee Donald Trump allowing himself to be tried either here or internationally for any type of criminal conduct.
Well, yeah, and the U.S. doesn't even recognize the jurisdiction of the Inter-American Court. So any ruling would actually be non-binding. And this is what the family wants. They want compensation because he was the breadwinner of the family. And so now he's gone. They want an end to the strikes and acknowledgement that their father was murdered, not killed in legitimate combat. But malignant narcissists never admit to wrongdoing. And this Hegseth, I'm going to actually throw in there with narcissist as well. Hegseth, Trump, they're all of them. They're just a bunch of narcissists.
Yes. I don't know how else to answer that question. Yes. But, again, like as an American, it's incredibly troubling to me that this administration is willing to murder individuals. Yes, I believe the family should be compensated. I hope the family is compensated. Do I think that you're going to get an apology from this administration or admission of guilt? Absolutely not. That will never happen. That being said, what about the lives, that will be lost in the meantime before, we're able to right the ship, so to speak, in this country and at least oust the current administration, whether or not they're ever held accountable for any of their criminal conduct, I think is actually a stretch. Yeah.
Putting a stop to this so that more lives aren't lost, so that we don't become numb to it. Because I think when the first boat strike hit, people were like, we did what? We did when, how, what? And then it was just like a succession of strikes, one after the other, to the point where I myself am not numb, but I know it hits a little bit differently this time. Now it's like, oh, we're still doing this, but the shock of, the conversation around, are we going to war? Are we going to war or not war? That's died down a little bit. And of course, this is all in the backdrop of so many things that the Trump administration wants to distract us from, right? From the Epstein files to the healthcare fight, so many things that they were like, okay, we're going to try to grab the narrative with this and think the American people are going to get behind this. And we haven't even talked about the oil, because obviously they just seized the oil tanker.
Yep.
And Venezuela has so much oil. So this crime, they're killing innocent people so they can go after the country's oil, is what it seems to be.
Yeah, no, I think this is a repeat of the playbook that was used, to justify the war in Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction, narco terrorism, and we're going to go and destabilize an already relatively, comparatively to us, weak nation, because we want access to its oil. Oil, Venezuela is one of the top oil producers, and we want it. And I don't think it's any more complicated than that.
And I think that's what's frustrating for me, is because with all the bluster, like, why don't they just come out and say that? It's so if they're such, it's so obvious, right? Like, why not just say it?
Maya, you might, careful what you wish for, you might actually get that. I think this administration, it's perfectly within their wheelhouse to simply come out and finally say, you know what? We just want the fucking oil, and we're going to use the American military to take it. I mean, we had at the beginning of this administration, we were talking about invading Canada and invading fucking Greenland because we wanted access to, Greenland for its strategic missile deploying capability, whatever. And people were on board with that. MAGA was on board with that. A lot of Americans were willing to, throw away our status in the international community to be the bully on the block. And, and it going back to what you were saying before, and it's starting to resonate with Americans that are shocked at this conduct. I would agree with you. It's shocking. And a lot of Americans are deeply troubled by what's happening. I mean, at least those are the conversations that I'm having, but not the ones that matter. The ones that matter are the ones in the military, the active duty service members, from the Admiral all the way down to the guy that's pulling that trigger. I mean, even if you can arguably in your mind justify something like this and striking this boat, we've been talking about the double tap of the Venezuelan suspected narco trafficking boat, in which there was a strike. There were 2 survivors. They were clinging to wreckage, and then over an hour later, another strike was authorized to go in and kill those 2 individuals who posed absolutely no threat whatsoever to the United States, or quite frankly to anyone in that moment. And we went and murdered them. And it wasn't Pete Hegseth that murdered them. It wasn't an admiral that fucking murdered them. It was members of SEAL Team 6 that obeyed that clearly unlawful order.
And I have to ask, when people enlisted in the military, is this what they signed up for? Is killing potentially innocent civilians? And right now, both the House and Senate Armed Services Committee have launched bipartisan reviews. That's how troubling it is. That's, there's the conversations that are had openly and the conversations that we know are happening behind closed doors. And my guess is those conversations behind closed doors are like, what the fuck are we doing? And it is disturbing to anybody to see. It feels like those snuff videos, where you see life getting vanquished right before your eyes, and we're supposed to accept that this is just how we do things now, with no end in sight. With the threat of a land war, that means American soldiers on the ground in Venezuela. And so who is going to be held accountable for that? And so I think by them not being able to fully address this, because they haven't responded to the lawsuit yet,
Right.
without them being able to address this kind of throws a wrench in their whole, because once again, similar to families stepping in the United States as far as ICE raids go, they probably didn't expect to have this much pushback from the American public, from Congress being bipartisan. They probably didn't expect this kind of pushback. And so they thought they could just cleanly go in and do whatever they wanted to do in Venezuela, push for regime change, take their oil. And that's the thing. If they can get, I forgot Machado, if they can get Machado in there, then they can probably make deals for the oil that they would like to do. Right. And so if they can topple Maduro, get her in, then they can have their way. But in the meantime, more and more people are going to get hurt. So where it stands now, we are simply hoping for some sort of clarity, some sort of transparency from the most transparent administration in history.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, again, I don't think any of that's going to come until after the midterms, and only if the administration or if Republicans lose control of the House and Senate, are you going to start to see the beginnings of those types of inquiries and investigations? And even then, I mean, those are incredibly time consuming. I mean, just look how long it took for the January 6th investigation to play out in Congress. I mean, it was years. And that was really, revolved around basically one day. And so that, unfortunately, I think we're going to see a lot more innocent lives taken, by this administration.
And they're hoping, I think, for a full-blown authoritarian takeover between now and when accountability might actually happen. They have plenty of time to plan for the inevitable loss that they're going to have during the midterms. They have plenty of time to plan for the inevitable loss in 2028. And so since so many people are involved in this lawlessness, you can best believe that there are going to be people who are going to continue to break the law in order to cover their asses and to keep themselves from spending the rest of their lives in prison. So that was probably more cynical than hopeful. I wanted to, I don't know, figure out how to end this on a hopeful note. That didn't happen.
I think it's totally appropriate. I mean, I tell people all the time, don't think that there's an election or a scandal that's going to hold this administration accountable. And in fact, the manner in which this administration conducts itself, that's so brazen, so unlawful, so immoral and unconstitutional, only leads me to believe that they have absolutely no intention of allowing a free and fair election, because they know that that there's no way that they're going to win, that they have to rig the election, so to speak, or not have one at all. In order for them to remain in power.
Which is why, folks, we have to fight now, harder now. The more we fight now, the easier it'll be in the future. And so I'm hoping people are storing up their energy and because next year, 2026 is going to be a big fight. In the meantime, what can you do? Because everybody's walking around looking at everything that's happening going, how can we help? You can light up the phones and call Congress and tell them that you're not okay with the United States murdering people who are out trying to fish. That's whatever. We need a template for people to make their argument, but this is absolutely unacceptable. And Congress is supposed to represent us. And so sometimes they have to be reminded of that. So make those phone calls, make those posts, make sure your friends and family members who maybe aren't as dialed into what's happening, let them know, like, hey, this guy was a fisherman. Look at this evidence of non-evidence. And his life was completely obliterated by the Trump administration, and it continues. And are you okay with this? And if not, make a phone call.
That's right. Get involved.
Get involved. before it's too late, before we're in multiple wars. I think the difference between war elsewhere and war in South America is you can get very easily from South America to the United States. And so I don't think that's something that anybody in the US on the mainland would like. So y'all, speak up now. I guess we have to wrap this up. We're going to come back to you next week with more crimes from the Trump administration. Apparently 200 plus illegal actions have been taken. I don't know if you guys saw that video, but apparently 200 plus. So we have no shortage of crimes that we can go through. So if you have any suggestions for anything that you would like us to cover, please drop it in the chat. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on the socials. Mike, what are your handles?
You can find me on Instagram at Michael Fanone Official, Facebook as well. And then I am on Substack, Michael Fanone, and YouTube, The Michael Fanone Show.
Amazing. And guys, I'm at Maya on Stage on all platforms, including Peloton. And so if they put it in the airport, that may be the only way you get me working out in an airport. Actually, this is a good deal to revive Peloton. If you are listening, put Peloton bikes in every airport. You will have a lot of really annoying yoga moms hopping on, myself included.
You could do that, or you could join me at the bar and watch my workout on a Peloton while you get inebriated.
I was going to say, I'm going to get everybody off the bar. I'm like, come on, guys, we're getting a workout in. You're going to see Maya on pre-workout drink, which is a Maya that I don't know that anybody wants to handle. I am crazy in the gym. So bringing it to an airport near you sometime soon, guys. Until then, have a great week.